Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to many of us. Welcome to CEO Talk, a series conducted by CXO TV, where a CEO narrates a story and share the learning and the success of building a great brand. So today we have with us Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. He is the founder of 5F World, a platform dedicated to the investment and mentoring of startups, skilling, and social enterprise. He's also the chairman of Honeywell in India. Dr. Ganesh has spent 30 years in building companies. From 1991 to 2001, he built EdTech, which grew from 7 crores entity to a large corporation with 1,400 education centers for computers in 42 countries. Then from 2001 to 2016, Dr. Ganesh built Zensar, which again was a small company and grew close to 4,000 crores with 8,000 people and a very strong focus on digital, which is what interests Ganesh to really focus rest of his life on digital transformation and digital success. And in 2016, he started a company called 5F World. So 5F stands for fast, focus, flexible, friendly, and fun. Welcome, Dr. Ganesh.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. So, Dr. Ganesh, I just want to ask, you have an elaborate experience across technology and education industry, and you have been associated with several SBI, CII, and so on. So what three excite you most about your career till now?
No, I think there's a constant thread in what we do, which is why the name of my company, which is what my cultural framework has been throughout my life. So it asks for three things. I think one is the ability to influence a scale, because what we did in AppTech was really a massive 42-country operation. Mm-hmm. And similarly, even if you look at the technology industry, I mean, today it is the most successful industry out of India. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one, scaling with good scope of what we try to do. The second is the ability to touch lives. I'm very passionate about people. One of the reasons why, I mean, in these times, of course, everybody's talking about the great resignation and moonlighting and what have you. But we've always built companies where people loved the organization. We loved them back. And it was an ethos of real camaraderie that happened. And the third is success. I mean, when you're running public limited corporations, you can't just be doing it for yourself. You have to maximize value for all stakeholders. And in my case, both in AppTech and in Zensar, it was maximizing value for shareholders, maximizing value for customers, and of course for employees. So I think these are the three tenets on which I've built everything. And even today on the boards I serve, etc. I think those are the three factors that I look.
Thanks, Dr. Ganesh. You touch upon influence, you talk about the ability to touch life, you talk about success. And definitely we have seen that success pouring up from two of your previous engagement, which has been EdTech and Zensar. So what's your take on the EdTech, because most of the layoffs currently has been around EdTech and followed by, obviously the consumer service and e-commerce. So do you see that there is a trend which is more alarming, which is all about that the EdTech game is already over? What's your view on this?
No, I don't think so at all, because I think if you look at, the research group Gartner has this thing called the Magic Quadrant, where they say that, look, everything starts with a lot of hype. Mm-hmm. Then you get into what is called, you reach the mountain of hype. Then you get into the design, much more curve of climbing up in a very enlightened manner. And I think that's what you're seeing with it. So initially there was a lot of froth and frenzy, primarily because of COVID. And in COVID, anything you launched which had a good user interface, people, whether it was school kids or colleges, were happy to do it from home because people were just getting bored sitting at home. But naturally, when COVID kind of dissipated, a lot of, especially kids, went back to school. So when you really look at the preferred option of getting to be more members of society, EdTech naturally took a hit. But having said that, I think companies which have been built for the long term. I'll give you two examples. One is my friend Ronnie Screwwala's company, Upgrad, which is tremendous value in further education, etc. Another invest for self. Skills actually is a B2B2C platform. So it works for the corporate learner, enables them to marry their career aspirations with skills. So these are, I think, built to last kind of companies. So like in every industry, the froth is banned. The unnecessary hype created by investor expectations has also come down. But I think you will find 4 or 5 very successful companies out of India, which will scale and global market share and attention.
Okay, very much. And so many of the market experts, they've been talking about the long and a bitter funding winters for startups due to limited visibility on when things will stabilize due to factors such as overall macroeconomic scenario, inflationary pressures, war, and fall in the stock market. So where do you see the startup ecosystem in India moving towards, and how the startup brace these challenges?
Because we are very proud of the fact that the number of unicorns, the $1 billion value will probably touch 100. But we mustn't forget that, unfortunately, many unicorns will lose their horns. Because if you just built it on hype and a kind of a copycat e-commerce kind of strategy, it's not going to last. So, but if you look at successful startups, and I mean, I go back to the early days of IT services, when you had the Wipros and Infosys and TCSs, and then joined by companies like Mindtrees, NSAR, HCL, we all built our companies the old-fashioned. I mean, we got revenue, we got profitability, then we scaled, we did acquisitions. And I think many startups will discover that formula. Because I always believe that if you have a good business idea, a strong model, good team, and have access to funding, then you can build. But to say that, look, I will make huge losses and I will be more valued if my losses go up every year, I think that's ridiculous because the fundamentals of economics don't allow you to make losses forever. So my point is, I mean, people with a sustained business model and a good team will continue to succeed. So my own, if you ask me for a guess, out of 75,000 odd startups, I mean, naturally, you should expect 50,000 of those startups will fall by the wayside. Another 10 go very slowly. But even if you can generate 5,000 great new companies from the startup hype, I think that would be fantastic for the country and for the world.
So, while COVID-19 has, forced organization to revisit model, technology as a major enabler, has been able to help them to be relevant in the changing scenario. How would you see the organization leverage technology to transform business and offering amid the changing customer expectations?
No, that's a great, which is why our theme is now on digital success.
Yeah.
So what we do as consultants in 5F World is primarily to approach large corporations and medium-sized corporations. Everybody is caught up in the hype of this. But we are finding that the 17-18% of organizations have reached the kind of success with digital that they aspire to achieve. And that's primarily because, we now feel that, look, there are 5 pillars on which technology must rest. One is, of course, what we call the journeys. What kind of employee journeys can you really enable through technology? It's processes. Because if you operate with a process, the best of will solve the problem. That's the second. The third, of course, is technology itself. Because technology is, so fast changing. We are now in the 4th wave of digital technologies. It started with cloud and the basic stuff, then moved to analytics, data management, then what we call edge technologies like Internet of Things and so on and so forth. And today we are talking about Metaverse. We're talking about people looking at immersive technologies, including reality. So you have to very judiciously choose technology. That's the third and very important dimension. The fourth is data and analytics. Even today, people think they're, but they're primarily doing post-mortem analysis of what happened. What is important is to use artificial intelligence, machine learning, to build a much more of a predictive and prescriptive analytics model, which companies like Facebook and Amazon have done extremely well. Indian companies have to learn that. Finally, the often ignored factor of success is talent. Do people in the organization have the skills to be 24/7 to respond to a digital native as well as a digital immigrant? And are we building a culture where people genuinely are technology enabled and making it happen? So if you look at those 5, very obviously, you will succeed to the level of the weakest link that you. But if you manage all these simultaneously, and we've seen this in case after case where we're actually helping companies in India and the US, then digital success is assured. So I think that's the way to look at implementing technology, not as an end in itself, but as just one factor among many factors to make your organization more successful.
Okay, that's really a good one because you talk about the success of the organization and you touch upon the technology and the usage on the technology. I think that is very relevant. It's all about the right side of the technology which the organization need to use. And so with this, I'll just move down to the next question, which is all about what are the new opportunities you see in the technology industry? What are the best practices would you suggest to boost the digital potential within the organization?
See, as I said, I'm particularly excited about Metaverse. I know a lot of people think that, Metaverse is just one more hype story and it's not going to happen, etc. But I genuinely believe that the future of gaming, the future of entertainment, the future of sports, what we're now calling esports, and of course, the future of education and almost everything will happen by people experimenting with technology, maybe in a digital format, and then implementing what they want physically. To give you an example, many manufacturing companies today operate on what is called digital twinning. Now, digital twinning is nothing but if you're thinking of a new manufacturing line to produce X products, you don't need to build a prototype and then experiment. You can actually simulate the entire thing on technology and really see, what is the optimum use of parameters and pressure, etc. Everything can be measured digitally. And then you get into this whole physical format. So the way I see it is immersive technologies. That's why I said, today, augmented reality, virtual reality are so important. To give you an example, I do a lot of work in the social sector. And we are currently, in fact, in the city of Pune, working with almost 12,000 young men and women from the slums and enabling them to dream of careers that they could not dream. To give you just one example. We started talking to people about, maybe you should become a nursing assistant in one of the big hospitals. Now, coming from the slums for 17 years, they can't imagine themselves entering a very fancy hospital. But when you enable them to put on virtual reality headsets and transport them, digitally into the operating theater of the nearby hospital, and they see somebody that looks like themselves assisting the doctor, feeling the pulse, and they think, oh my God, wo kar sakti hai to main bhi kar sakta hu. So it is the show and tell effect of technology which is becoming so important. So my own feeling is it's going to be very visual. Okay, in future, technology will enable us to experience before we do the physical experience. But eventually, it'll be phygital. There'll be a lot of physical activity and a lot of digital activity. And the way you design the coexistence of these two will determine the future of technology. And as I say, it's going to happen in every walk of life, education to entertainment to work to sports. And we should be prepared for it.
Well said, Dr. Ganesh. You talk about phygital, you talk about metaverse. But I just want to ask you a little bit, around metaverse itself. That's definitely an hype stuff which has been there. But what's your take in terms of the engagement piece? We can see that a couple of the banks they have initiated. In fact, Union Bank has just come up with a metaverse. So, what's your take on the customer engagement? How they can kickstart, or probably how metaverse can actually because there has been a lot of questions around the engagement piece, which still the story is unclear to a lot of the companies. So, what's your take on that?
No, I think you have to design the experience properly. That's extremely important. When you banks, I mean, I know, for instance, JP Morgan or Citibank, in fact, the bank that I'm on board of, State Bank of India, are all taking metaverse very seriously. And why is it? Because in the good old days, like if you look at my mother-in-law who's 89 years old, she loves to go to the State Bank branch, have a cup of tea with the manager, print her passbook, all the old-fashioned or the old methods. Today, you talk to my daughter, she's never seen a bank branch in her life and never would want to. Because the younger generation is not about experience and interaction. They want to get stuff done fast. So for somebody like my daughter, the ability to engage on the internet, get all her questions solved, maybe, if at all, meet a bot or an avatar of a bank manager rather than meeting him physically, is extremely critical. Because she wants to get stuff done in 10 minutes, what my mother-in-law would happily spend half a day doing. Okay, so we need to understand. And my belief is very similar to what we discussed earlier about the hype cycle. Initially, everybody will jump into Metaverse. Okay. I was talking to a person who said, I'm already on Metaverse. Our last conference, 3 of us put on wolf avatars and lectured about it. So I said, that's Metaverse. He said, yeah, you've heard of avatars. No, I said, yeah, I've heard of avatars. But avatars is a manifestation of a real immersive experience. But he kind of lost it. He said, no, I'm already on Metaverse. Same thing with digital, same thing with EdTech that we talked about. So we tend to be prey to quick, early gratification. Without achieving 10% of what you should be, we already claim success. So serious discussions are happening. In fact,
absolutely, I agree with you. I think these are some initial days where a lot of learnings has to be done. But I find so what is your outlook for the technology and the startup industries in India for the next couple of years?
See, let me back you up and say that, look, I think I'm really excited about India at this point. If you look at what so many people have said, I was talking to my friend Nandan the other day. He said, I wake up in the morning smiling, saying, my God, there's so much opportunity. And I totally agree with Nandan, because today, there is no doubt that in the next 2 years, India and possibly Indonesia and Vietnam will be the highest growth stories. China has lost its way a little bit because of that. Longer term, if you look at it over the next 10 years, China and a resurgent America, which will rule the world. And the opportunity for startups to really identify discontinuities where we can really offer a product or service that serves the market, make a very good success of it in digital India or even within the Indian growth story is absolutely amazing. So this will not be the story of my industry, the IT services industry, where we first succeeded abroad and then said, hey, can we do something for India? This will be a story of many, many, many entrepreneurs, some of whom we are investing in private world, who are looking at the India opportunity, making stuff happen at scale in India, and then saying, can we also grow? So I am truly excited. I think the next part will be fine. In fact, the latest book I'm co-writing is a book on pathways to India in 2030. And we see opportunity everywhere, literally.
Okay. Because, earlier this year, we saw global sell-off pressures we saw in the stock market across the world, and this also reflected poor performance in the new age tech stocks in the market. So what is your take on that? How you see this from the Indian context?
See, I think we have to be sober in our expectations for the next couple of years. As you know, even this year, the economic growth, even in India, has been downgraded from the originally hyped up 9.3% to 7%.
Yeah.
7% is a good number in this market, because there is huge inflationary pressure on all economies. You can expect that even, Western Europe is already in big trouble. But if you look at even US, I think they'll kind of moderate your expectations, which is why they keep raising interest rates. So it's going to be tough times, no doubt about that. So we have to hunker down. We have to make sure that we manage our capital well. But as I said, if you're able to overcome the next 6 to 9 months of, critical external pressures and build robust companies which succeed in spite of all the problems, I think the medium term is going to be spectacular for it. So any entrepreneur watching this, I'm saying they absolutely, get your optimism up make sure that you're moderate in the first. Then you can take off like a parabolic curve. That's what you should be doing.
So with this, we come to the end of the session and the episode. Thanks, Dr. Ganesh, for such an insightful session, and we really appreciate interacting with you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, and all the best to what you guys are trying to do. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Dr. Ganesh.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.